Okay, thank you. So Mrs. Coote, you have the burden of proof, which means that you start and you finish. Um, I'm going to have you begin with your case in chief. You can go ahead and tell me what you would like me to know about what happened. However, when it comes to your witnesses, you're going to have to ask who, what, when, where, why type questions to get your witnesses' testimony in. They cannot just start talking. They have to respond to questions. If you hear the word objection at any time, that means that the attorney has an objection to something that you're saying and believes that it is inappropriate or should not be heard by the court for some reason. If you hear the word objection, stop talking immediately, and then I will hear the reason for the objection, and then we'll move on. Whenever the attorney starts to present his side of the case, if you feel as if someone is saying something objectionable, you can say the word objection, and I will hear your legal basis for why you think I shouldn't hear the evidence. Objections are not because you disagree with what's being said. An objection is a legal reason that I should not be able to hear what the other side is saying. So just because they're lying, that is not a legal reason for me not to be able to hear what they are stating. If you hear the word again, objection, just stop talking. And again, the only way you can object is if there is some legal grounds that prevents the trier of fact from being able to hear the evidence. That being stated, counsel, I will get started. The only thing I will stop for is if I believe that someone's coming back in and they've been able to resolve their case, or if the other attorney comes back in, just so I can see how long he needs and give him another time to report back. But while I'm doing that, let me also ask position 4, Mrs. Smith, if you can unmute yourself, and then I only have a yes or no question for you. Yes or no, were you able to resolve your case?
No.
Okay, thank you. You can go back on mute. Thank you. Okay, so that being stated, Mrs. Coote, you are now your turn to present your evidence. You can begin. And I apologize. One last thing. I usually let everyone know what we're here for. So we are here today for this case. It's alleged family violence battery and simple battery harm. Mrs. Coote is alleging that on September 24th of 2023 at approximately 6:35 p.m. That Mr. Coote committed the crimes of family violence battery and simple battery by pushing Mrs. Coote in the face with his finger. And she had redness, and he caused physical harm to her by pushing her in the top of her head. And these are the allegations. So the only thing that I want to hear about is what occurred on September 24th on or around 6:35 p.m. that regarded pushing in the head area, in the face, and causing redness. That's what we're here for today. So you can go ahead and begin, Mrs. Coote.
Thank you, Your Honor. On September 24th, 2023, I went to pick up my daughter, Christina Coote, from Mr. Coote's home. We have a parenting agreement plan where we have to exchange our daughter, pick up, drop off. Sometimes he picks her up from my home, and I have to go pick her up from his home, or I take her to his home, and then he brings her back to my home. On that particular day, I went to pick up our daughter from Mr. Coote's home, and upon arrival, he came down with her suitcase, and he demanded that I open my trunk. My trunk had stuff in it, so I had to get out of my car to let my seat back. I was driving my 2-door car at the time, so I had to get out of my car to let the seat back, get the luggage to put in the back seat. At that point, Mr. Coote started cursing at me, calling me, I'm going to spell it out because I don't like to use derogatory language, bitch, and telling me he would slap the shit out of me. And at that point, he just got very vulgar, irate, and was out of control. And so I started, he then started saying other things like, I killed my dad and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, I didn't do that. That would be your mother. She killed her father to get the money that, you guys to purchase this home that you're living in. And he just started, he was just outrageous, just cursing and telling me he would slap the shit out of me, and stuff like that. And then, there was other things said, but getting to the point to where I was in between my door and my car, and Mr. Coote took his hand and forcefully tried to push me down into my vehicle. Your Honor, prior to that, I had 2 neck surgeries and a back surgery. Mr. Coote was aware of the fact that I had these surgeries. And the reason being that he was aware is because
I don't need to hear about the
okay.
surgeries. That's getting off topic. So I just want to know what happened, not what he should have known in his head. Just tell me what he did and what he said and what you said.
All right. Well, he pushed, he tried to forcefully push me down into my car. He put his hand on the top of my head and tried to push me down into my car. My body, because I've been injured, it, had a jerk reaction, and I kind of like popped up. And at that point, that's when he took his index finger and almost poked me in my eye and pushed me back. And when he did that, I got into my car, and that's when I called 911. And told them that, my ex-husband had just put his hands on me and I needed the police at his residence, and I gave him the address. My daughter was in the car, witnessed what my ex-husband did. And his wife was standing on the deck, and she was yelling at him, telling him, every time he would threaten to slap the SHIT out of me, she was yelling, "No, Omar, stop. No, don't. Omar, stop. No. Oh," so that's pretty much what happened. The police was called. After I called the police, I called my sister. She told me to leave his property. So I did. I drove down to the bottom of the hill and waited on the police. Once the police got there, took our statement, and, they initially talked to Mr. Coop before.
Well, you can't necessarily tell me what they said or what they saw, but was there anything else you need to tell me about what he actually physically did to you or said during the incident?
That was pretty much it. He took his hand and forcefully pushed down, tried to forcefully push me into his car. I mean, into my car, and then took and, poked me almost on the side of my face, almost in my eye, pushing me back. But the forcefulness of him pushing me in the top of my head injured my neck. And I've submitted documentation to show where I went to the hospital after that, and then where I've had MRIs done of my neck to show, and my back, of the injuries that I've sustained.
Is there anything that you need to show me? I don't care about the injuries. Well, actually, I guess I do, because you're alleging family violence battery with visible injury. Are there any visuals of what happened, or is it just pain that you have? Was there any visible bruising to you?
You can't see my bulging discs inside of my body, Your Honor. And so
there was no visible bruising on your body?
No, there was no visible bruising on my body. I just have bulging discs in my neck and in my back. And the MRIs that I have.
So do you have any injuries other than the bulging disc from this incident?
No, Your Honor, just the bulging disc in my neck. And
have any evidence other that I don't need to see evidence of the injury, since it's not a visible injury, but do you have any other evidence of that you would like to show me that isn't about the injuries?
Well, I submitted evidence regarding, when Mr. Coot was cursing at me and saying the things that he was saying to me. I was telling, because his wife was up on the deck, and I was telling her that Mr.
What evidence do you have other than just your injuries? What other evidence do you have?
I just have evidence to prove what I'm saying and what was said.
Well, what evidence do you have other than just the medical bills? What other physical evidence do you have?
I submitted a TPO, a temporary protective order. I also submitted the police report of in question September 24th. I've also submitted evidence. I think I submitted the warrant application. I submitted evidence of Mr. Coot having gone to therapy and therapists diagnosing him with depression. I've submitted evidence from my old attorney, notices of cease and desist.
Okay, so anything else relating to what happened on September 24th? Anything, video, anything that relates to September 24th?
No, Your Honor, I don't have any video or anything like that. I just have the where I went to the hospital. I submitted that documentation.
Okay. All right. So, counsel, I'm going to go ahead at this time and allow you to cross-examine her. You can begin your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Coote, how are you, ma'am?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Thanks again for agreeing to speak with me. You said that you submitted some exhibits. One was the warrant application that you took out. Is that right?
Yes.
You have that in front of you, ma'am?
I do.
Okay. In the application, you allege that Mr. Coote caused you bodily harm, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And and here you said that he did that by pushing you in the face with his finger?
I said that by pushing on the top of my head and yes, pushing me in the face.
Okay. Well, so you wrote in your application that Mr. Coote pushed you on the face with your finger. However, you testified previously that he pushed you on the top of your head. Is that right?
I testified to both. He pushed me on the top of my head, and he also took his index finger and poked me, pushing me backwards.
Okay. All right. And according to you, when he pushed you with his index finger on the top of the head, was that what caused the bulging disc?
When he put his hand on top of my head and pushed down, tried to forcefully push me in the car, yes, that's what caused the bulging disc.
Okay. And then what about when he pushed you with his finger in the face? What did that do?
Well, I felt when he pushed me and pushed me backwards, that's a poke, but that's pretty much what it did. He put his hands on me by pushing me, poking me with his finger and pushing me backwards. That's also putting his hands on me.
Okay. When you took out the warrant, reading on, it says that Mr. Coote is your ex-husband, and that you swore to the court that the officer observed redness on you. Is that correct?
Well, if the officer
in your application,
that's what the judge put in the application. Yes.
Is that what you told the judge?
I told the judge he poked me.
Okay.
with his finger.
Okay. So did the judge make up the redness part, or did you tell him that?
I told him that he pushed me with his finger. Okay. He poked me with his finger.
So you never said that the officer observed redness, did you?
I didn't say that. Okay. I said he poked me with his finger.
So if someone wrote it here, would that be a lie, or is that?
I didn't see the side of my face to see if there was redness, but he poked me with his finger and pushed me backwards.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, you also submitted a copy of the incident report?
Is that right? A copy of the police report.
Okay. All right. So in the report, you said that Mr. Coote pushed your head and poked your head in the face with his finger. Is that right?
I said Mr. Coote put his hand on top of my head, forcefully pushing me in the car. And he also took his index finger and almost poked me in the eye, pushing me back.
The officer that arrived on the scene, he spoke with you?
He initially spoke with Mr. Coote.
Okay. And he spoke with Mr. Coote as well, you said?
He spoke with Mr. Coote first.
Okay. And then who did he speak with second?
He came over to me second, I believe.
Okay. And did he also speak with Mr. Coote's current wife, Carrie?
He told me that he did.
Okay. Did he speak with your daughter, Christina?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did he note in his report whether or not he observed any visible injuries?
The report said he did not observe any visible injuries, but you can't see bulging discs.
Okay.
But I did tell him that I had surgery and Mr. Coote had forcefully pushed me the top of my head, trying to forcefully push me into my car.
Okay. Now, did you take pictures of your bulging disc?
I have evidence of my bulging disc. You have to take. Yes, I did MRIs. Those are pictures.
Okay. And do you have the photographs? Did you submit those?
I submitted the MRI documentation.
Okay. And those MRI documentation, did you submit the doctor's notes with it as well?
I believe I did. I submitted what they gave to me.
Okay. All right. Now, who's the name of the doctor?
let's see, JKMD. Let me spell this last name. COSTANTINI.
And in his notes, what does he say caused your bulging disc?
They didn't say what caused the bulging disc. I went and had the MRI because I went to my pain doctor and they have to schedule the MRIs.
Okay. Now you got your results back. Is the doctor here to testify to their findings?
No,
okay.
I do not have the doctor here.
All right. Did you, you have your MRI. Did you take any photographs of your back or any of the redness that you alleged was present?
I didn't allege redness.
Okay.
And again, you can't see bulging disc from the visible eye. That's why MRIs have to be done. So they provided me with a CD of the imaging, but they write a report, and the report is what I provided to the courts.
Okay.
But I do have a CD which of the MRI, and that shows the imaging, but you have to know what you're looking at. That's why they provide a report.
Okay. And so how many times did you go to the MRI doctor, your spine doctor, after this incident?
Well, I went and had the MRIs done that showed that I had bulging discs from C3 down to T1 and L3445 in my back.
Okay.
And since then, I have been to my pain doctor.
Did you call the ambulance at the scene? Did you ask for an ambulance when the officer arrived?
No, I told them I was going to go to the hospital on my own.
Okay. So you have a bulging disc, yet you don't call the ambulance?
I did not know I had a bulging disc. That's why the MRI was done. I knew I was in excruciating pain, and that's why I went to the hospital to emergency. And
so at the time of the incident, you say that you were in excruciating pain, yet you didn't call for an ambulance?
No.
Okay.
I went to the emergency. Did
you ask the officer for an ambulance?
No, I told the officer.
How long after?
Counsel, let her finish her answer. She can answer yes or no and finish her answer, but allow her to complete the answer if she's still answering, please.
Okay. Do you want me to re-ask it, Judge?
No, you can. Do you remember the question, Ms. Coot?
I told the officer that I would go to the hospital myself. I would drive myself to the hospital. I didn't want to leave my car there at the location that was near Mr. Coot.
So despite being in excruciating pain, you were able to drive your car away? Is that what your testimony is?
Yes.
Okay. And how long after the incident did you go to the doctor's office?
Immediately after talking to the police officer. After I was finished talking with the police officer.
You went to the emergency room?
Yes, DeKalb Emory.
How long were you married to Mr. Coot?
That's a tricky question. We got married in 2007. We got an initial divorce in 2006, but it was overturned. And then we got a divorce again in 2019. So that's what makes the question kind of tricky. So I was apparently still married to him after the divorce was overturned. People say they never heard of such, but that's what happened.
Okay.
So,
and you've known him roughly 15, 20 years. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And how many times has he been convicted of domestic violence against you?
I did not file charges against Mr. Coot.
Okay. How many times has he been arrested for domestic violence against you?
Again, I called the police 4 times on Mr. Coot while we were married, but I did not file charges against him.
So the police had visited your residence 4 times while you were together?
For domestic, yes. And that was in 2008.
And not one of those times did they make an arrest?
I did not file charges.
Okay.
I asked them to have him to be removed from the property, and that's what they did. They had him removed from the property. He had to pack a bag of clothes and leave.
Okay. So September 24th, 2023, that would be the 5th time the police came out after your phone call for Mr. Coot without making an arrest. Is that correct? That'd be the 5th time?
Well, I asked that they arrest him that time. And I also filed this 5th time.
Gotcha.
That's the difference. Yeah.
And last thing, you said that you have a custody agreement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And that custody agreement, you drop your daughter off. Once, I guess, Mr. Coot, he gets visitation with your daughter twice, 2 weekends a month. Is that right?
Second and fourth.
Okay. And you drop her off at his house. You drop your daughter off at his house. He drops her back home with you at the end. Is that right?
That is correct. And there are times when it's vice versa, that he will come pick her up and take her to his house. And then I have to go to his house and pick her up to bring her home.
Gotcha. And when did those times occur?
It can recur at any time. If he calls and I'm sorry?
Besides?
I don't understand the question. I
mean, who decides to go against the parenting plan?
Well, it's really not going against the parenting plan as long as it's a pick up, drop off, and he just not always pick her up and bring her back.
Okay. So despite the fact that the parenting plan says that Mr. Coot is supposed to drop her off, you showed up at his house instead. Is that right?
No, that's not correct. Mr. Coot
you didn't show up at his house?
Mr. Coot had called to come pick our daughter up, and because he was in the area, he came and picked her up, and so I went to his house that Sunday. He picks her up on Friday. That Sunday, I go to his house to pick her up to bring her back home.
Even though the parenting plan says he's supposed to drop her off, correct?
It says that I can take her to his house and he can bring her back home to my house.
Thank you.
But if we decide to switch, that's okay.
All right. And who decided that day? You or Mr. Coot?
Mr. Coot decided to pick her up, so I had to go get her from his house.
Thank you. No further questions, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Let me take a break to ask counsel on the other case. Counsel Morrison, were you able to reach a resolution in your case?
No, ma'am, we were not able to reach a resolution.
And so what I would anticipate is this should maybe take another 30 minutes or 45 minutes if you want to come back at 8.
At 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That way you don't have to just wait unnecessarily. If you would like to, you could just come back at 8.
All right. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honor. We'll see you at 8.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Rainey, if you can unmute yourself just briefly and let me know yes or no if you were able to reach a resolution.
No, ma'am, we were not.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. And then Ms. McClinton, did you come back in?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, were y'all able to reach a resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
You were?
Yes.
What is that resolution so I can put it in writing?
That I will not go through her yard to go to my mailbox.
Okay, and that's something that you believe that you can do?
Yes, I can walk around.
Okay, McClinton, is your testimony under oath that you agree that you will not be on any part of Ms. Charmaine Phillips' property?
Correct.
And you understand, again, under oath that should you not do that, you're being officially put on notice that she doesn't want you there. And so you would be officially in violation of the law. And she would just simply need to come back to swear out a warrant if you were to walk on her property again, since she's indicated she does not want you on any part of her property.
So what part is all of her property? Because like her property is next to my mailbox.
Okay. Or you said that you were able to get to your mailbox without being on her property. Is that correct?
I mean, if I come from another direction, I won't be. But if I come from a different direction, I will be, because it's kind of her grass is where my mailbox, where I walk up to the mailbox. And this is a
So you said that there is a way that you can access your mailbox without having to actually step foot on her property, though. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're agreeing that you will choose to go that way every time so that you don't have to step foot on her property?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Phillips, is that what you were wanting, that she not encroach upon your property for any reason?
Yes, that's correct. And in order to have the dogs on my property, again, she would be on the property. So that would be redundant. And she also agreed not to do any property damage to my property, which she couldn't do if she was on the property. So I guess we've covered all the issues. And just to clarify, my property is on the end, but part of the grass does belong to the mailbox area. and part of it is mine. So as long as she accesses the mailbox from the street, like everyone else, instead of coming through the grassy area, there wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, so I believe that's what she's indicated. So she will not be on any part of your property, and you put her on notice through this forum that if she should return to any part of your property, that you will seek to revive warrants. So that being taken care of, I will write all of that up and put that in a dismissal order. So again, Ms. McClinton, make sure you access the mailbox from the street, not from the grass, and that you don't step on her property, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So both of you can be excused. I will issue that dismissal with that with those requirements for the dismissal. This is Kathy Coote. If you have your witness, you'll need to call your witness. You can get your daughter. You can call her to come in the room with you, or you can have her testify from a different device. But you can go get your daughter so that she can testify now. Okay. And how old is your daughter?
She's 15, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So you can raise your right hand for me, if you don't mind.
Sit down.
Okay. And can you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can place your hand down, and you do understand that we are in a court hearing today, and that means that you have to tell the truth, even if you think that it's going to make either your mom or your dad upset. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you comfortable doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you comfortable testifying with your parents right there? Would you like to be able to talk to me without your parents around for a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one? Do you want to just, are you okay with your parents being here? Or would you like to talk to me for a second without the parents?
I'm okay with my mom being here.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let your mom ask you some questions first. And Mom, if you don't mind, I'll need to be able to see both of you at the same time.
Okay.
So perfect. And then I'll let your mom ask you some questions. And then also, let's see. And if you can just adjust it a little bit, Ms. Coote, because I can't see both of you all the way. I need to be able to see both of your faces, entire faces while I'm doing this. Okay, perfect. Or you can probably adjust the camera if it's easier for you so you don't have to be in an uncomfortable position. Carrie, Christina, your mom is going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer them as truthfully as you can. And then the attorney is going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer those questions, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Mom, what I need you to do is you cannot suggest the answer with a question. So for example, I cannot ask someone, was it raining whenever you left the house? Because that implies that it was raining. I can ask that person, what was the weather whenever you left the house? But I can't say, was it raining? Because that, again, suggests that that is the answer. I can't tell someone, did you see whenever the truck hit me? I can instead say, did you see anything whenever you walked out of your door that morning? You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. So with that understanding in mind, you can go ahead and ask Christina some questions.
Okay. Christina, on September 24th, 2023, when I came to your father's house to pick you up, what did you observe?
I observed that my dad came outside with a fit of rage. He was in a fit of rage, and he threatened my mom by saying, I'm a beat your ass. And so my dad, he had grabbed my mother's head, and he tried to push it down into her car.
Did you observe your dad do anything else?
Yes, ma'am. He had used his index finger and tried to poke my mom and her. Yeah, he tried to poke my mom in her eye.
Did you talk to the police officer and when they arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you tell the police officer?
I told the police officer the exact same events that happened, which was my dad trying to forcefully push my mom's head into her vehicle. I also had told the police officer that my dad had also used his index finger to basically push my mom a little bit back.
Who else observed this?
My stepmother, Carrie, she had came outside to the deck, and my baby sister was out on the deck also. She was crying. My baby sister was.
How old is your baby sister?
My baby sister is 2 years old.
Do you know why your dad tried to push your mom's head down and poke her with his finger?
Because my dad was in a fit of rage between a conversation me, my dad, and my mom had all together while we were on the phone.
And had your mom got to the house at the time that y'all had this conversation on the phone?
No, ma'am, but I remember that you were going to pick me up that day.
Did your mom, after talking to the police, where did you and your mom go?
After talking with the police, wait, what was the question?
After talking to the police, where did you and your mom go?
We went to the hospital.
Did you go to the hospital with your mom?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your mom in pain?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say was hurting her?
Her back and her neck.
Did they examine your mom at the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there when they examined her?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they give her anything to take?
Yes, ma'am.
What did they give your mom to take?
I believe it was pills to take.
Do you know what the pills were?
They were to reduce the pain.
In 2021, did you and your mom go to Florida?
I can't recall going to Florida.
You don't recall going to Florida?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, that's all I have at this time. I can't. But I'd like to reserve.
Okay, so the attorney can go ahead and ask some questions at this time.
Thank you. How are you, Christina?
Hello.
All right. Thanks for taking some time to answer some of our questions. Okay. Your mom, when you left your father's house, did you see her get into the car?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you, when you got to the hospital, did you go straight to the hospital?
Yes, sir.
And did you see her get out of the car?
Yes, sir.
Did you have to help her out?
No, sir.
Oh, did any medical staff have to rush to the car to escort her out of the vehicle?
No, sir. We had walked on our own to the hospital.
Okay.
And inside of it.
All right. And so when you walked in, did someone put a wheelchair underneath of her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. How long after you got inside did they give her a wheelchair?
I don't recall for how long. I just remember that she was in a wheelchair. She was placed in a wheelchair for a little bit of time.
After a while?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So not immediately. Okay. All right. So after that, did your mom have to wear a neck brace?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, did you, you obviously saw what happened. Did you observe any redness?
No, sir.
No redness. Okay. And now you said that when your mom and your father, when they were interacting, let's say, did this occur in front of the car or did this occur on the back porch?
So the whole car, you mean when the incident happened?
Yeah. Was it in the back porch or was it next to the car?
It was, well, the conversation really started when me, my dad, and myself, we were on the phone together in my room. And so when my mom had come to pick me up, my dad, Carrie, and my baby sister was there also. But my dad, you know, he went downstairs towards the car, my mom's vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the incident took place.
Where were you when that happened?
I was in the car.
Were you in the passenger seat?
Yes, sir. I was in front.
Oh, you were in the front when that happened? Okay. All right. Now, did anything occur on the back porch or all of this happened next to the car?
All of this happened next to the car.
Got it. Now I understand. Okay. All right. Now, let's see. You spoke with the officer?
Yes, sir.
You told him the same thing you told us today, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. No further questions. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Christina, if you don't mind, if you can go back into another room in the house where you're not able to hear what's going on, and I'll let you know if I need to hear from you again tonight. Thank you for talking to us.
Yes, ma'am, and you're welcome.
Okay. Did you have any other witnesses, or was that all that you had?
You're asking me if I have any other witnesses?
Yes, ma'am.
On the report that I filed, I put Carrie Coop because she witnessed what happened.
Okay. All right. So I believe she's going to be called by the defense. So what we'll do then at this time, counsel, I'll go ahead and switch to you then. Mrs. Coot will call the other Mrs. Coot in, Miss Carrie Coot. Madam Clerk, can we let her in, please? Okay, so the attorney will ask you some questions first, and then Mrs. Kathy Coot may ask you some questions later. So counsel, you can go ahead and begin.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Coot, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
All right. Ms. Coot, how do you know Mr. Omar Coot?
He's my husband.
All right. How long have you been married?
Since December 2020.
Okay. And while you were married, has he ever been, have you ever called the police on him for domestic violence?
Never.
Have you ever taken out a restraining order on him?
Never.
And do you know him to be a violent person?
No.
All right. And to your knowledge, has he ever been arrested for any crime?
No.
Do you know Kathy Coot?
I know of her.
You know of her? And how do you know of her?
I just know that she is his ex-wife.
Okay. And on the day, I guess the afternoon, or evening rather, of September 24th, 2023, around 6 p.m., do you recall where you were?
I was on my back deck of my house.
Okay. And all right. And around 6 o'clock, were you carrying your youngest, I guess your infant child at the time?
I wasn't carrying her, but she was next to me. She was
okay. Close. All right. And you were on your back porch. What did you observe?
I saw Kathy Coot pull up in her car.
Okay. And she pulled up the driveway and she parked in front of the house. What did she do?
She pulled up and was aligned with our back deck at the back of the house. She pulled up and was aligned with our back deck.
All right. And when she parked her car, what happened next?
Omar came out with his daughter, Christina, holding her bags because she just stayed with us for the weekend. And they walked together down the stairs. We have some stairs leading from our back deck. And he walked her down to her mother's car, put her bags in the back of the car. And while he was doing that, Kathy had gotten out of the car and was standing at the driver's side with the door open. And they began to argue. And a few minutes later, she started to yell up to me. I was still on the deck. And she started to yell up to me that she knew Omar had secrets and she knew his secrets and that I should call her. And then he told her to...
In response.
Sorry?
How did you respond to her?
I didn't say anything during this whole time and I never said a word.
Is that because this behavior is not unusual?
No, it's because I was just I was surprised at what was happening, and no questions were asked of me. Nothing was directed. Like she didn't ask me anything, so I didn't have to answer anything.
Understood. What happened next?
He asked her to get off of the property, and she continued yelling. And so he called the police, and she basically hung around until the police arrived.
Okay. What do you mean hung around? Did she just
in her car? Christina was in the car. They had the door closed, and they pretty much sat in the car.
Did they stay in your driveway?
For about 10 minutes, and then they moved to we've got kind of a really long driveway, and then after about 10 minutes, they moved to the bottom of it.
Gotcha. Okay. And when the officer, I guess, all right. So I guess at that point, the officer arrived. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So prior to the officer arriving, did you observe any physical confrontation between the two?
No.
Was Omar Coot, did he push Miss Kathy Coot?
No.
With his finger?
No.
Did Kathy Coot, did she push Omar Coot?
No.
Did you observe any visible injuries to Miss Kathy Coot?
No, I didn't.
Did you observe any redness?
No, I did not.
Did it appear to you that she had any difficulty walking after the verbal exchange?
No.
Okay. Did she have any trouble getting into her car?
No.
Getting out of her car?
No.
All right. And that's all, Your Honor. Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Coot, Miss Kathy Coot, if you have any questions for Miss Carrie Coot, you can ask those questions now.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Carrie.
Hello.
How long have you known Omar Coot?
Since known him since August 2016.
And you said you and Mr. Coot was married December 2022.
2020.
2020. Okay. So you've known him since 2016. Was Mr. Coot divorced?
Yeah. As far as I know, yes.
What year, as far as you're aware of, was Mr. Coot divorced?
I honestly don't know. I just know that when I met him, he was divorced. I don't know what year you and him were divorced. I just know that when I came along in 2016, you were divorced.
So you were not aware that he was married.
Okay, so Ms. Coot, we're not going to get into any of that information. I have four other hearings I'm going to have to get to today, so it has to be laser focused on what happened on September 24th.
Okay. On September 24th, when I came to pick up Christina, you said you was on the back deck.
Yeah.
So how far was the deck from my car?
25 meters.
And you were standing, is the deck above the car or is it low? Do you have a high deck or a low deck?
A high deck. There's stairs leading up to the deck and I can see down onto the drive. It's high.
Okay. And did you observe what took place between Kathy and Omar in terms of what he said to her verbally? Did you hear?
Honestly, I didn't hear very much. I just heard when Kathy began yelling up to me on top of the deck.
And what did Kathy yell to you on top of the deck?
That she knows secrets about Omar, and she was putting her hand up to her face like this and saying, "Call me, girl, call me. I've got all of his secrets." That's all I recall her saying to me.
And you don't recall anything else?
I don't. I was just in shock. I was just in shock that you guys were arguing on my back driveway.
But you couldn't hear what your husband, Omar, was saying, but you could hear what Kathy was saying.
When she began yelling up to me, I heard what she was saying, but I didn't hear what she was saying to Omar.
But you did not hear Omar because when he was yelling, you couldn't hear him?
No.
Did you observe Omar put his hand on top of Kathy's head?
No.
did you observe Omar take his index finger and push Kathy, almost poking her in her eye?
No.
Have you ever met Miss Coote?
Kathy Cook.
Ex?
To speak to, no. I see her when we do drop-offs and pickups with Christina, but I've never had a face-to-face conversation. No.
Your Honor, that's all I have for Miss Coote.
Okay, so Mrs. Coote, we're going to place you back in a private meeting room. Please make sure you do not listen to any of the other testimony, and we'll call you back in if we should need you, but we're going to place you back in that private room right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, well, actually, hold on one second. Counsel, do you have any follow-up questions for her?
No, Your Honor, I appreciate it. One request. If I could have 60 seconds in a breakout room with my client, I would be grateful.
Okay, Madam Clerk, are you able to put him and Mr. Coote in a breakout room for a few moments? Okay, Counsel, I see that you've returned. Were you ready to move forward?
Yes, Your Honor. We're going to call Mr. Omar Coote.
Okay, so Mr. Your attorney's going to ask you some questions, and then Ms. Coote will be able to ask you questions after that. So again, Counsel, you can go ahead and begin. Thank you.
Your Honor. Mr. Coote, good afternoon. What is your relationship to the petitioner, Kathy Coote?
She's my ex-wife.
Okay. On September 24th, 2023, around 6:30 p.m., do you recall where you were?
Yes, sir.
Where were you, sir?
I was at home with my daughter, both my daughters and my wife.
All right. Did you happen to run into your ex-wife, Miss Kathy Coote, that day?
Yes.
What are the circumstances?
She came to pick up my daughter.
Okay. And when she came around 6:30, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And how did you know that she was coming?
She said she was coming to pick up my daughter.
And how did she say? Did she call you? Did she text you?
We were on the phone, and then she said she's going to pick up my daughter. She's going to come and get her.
Okay. All right. So after the phone call, what happened after that?
She came up the driveway to pick up Christina.
All right. And when did you see her?
When she came up to the driveway, we were on the deck just waiting, and she drove up.
All right. When she drove up, well, what did you do?
I got Christina's bag, and I walked Christina down the step and put the bag in the trunk, and then Christina in the passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay. And had you spoken with Kathy Coote at that point?
She came up to the driveway just yelling and screaming at me, then yelling at my wife and saying witches and warlocks. And so I just went back to the deck and tried to Google to find out what she was talking about. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Coote. When you were walking out of your house, you saw Kathy Coote, up your driveway. You're carrying your daughter's luggage, is that right? To the
yes,
car?
Sir.
Is that when she gets out of the car and yells at you?
After I put the bag in the vehicle and Christina in the car, she started to yelling and scream.
Okay. And then what did you do?
I walked back up to the deck, and we were just sitting there trying to Google what she was saying and trying to figure out if we could make sense of what she was saying.
What was she saying?
Witches and warlocks, and for my wife to call her because she knows all my secrets and stuff like that. So,
okay. Did your wife, did Carrie say anything in response to that?
No, she did not.
Now, what did you do after she was gone?
She stood in the driveway for a few minutes, and basically Christina came back up after a while, and she was just sitting in the driveway.
Sitting in the driveway in her vehicle?
In her vehicle.
Okay. Doing what?
I have no idea what she was doing.
Was Christina in the car with her?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what did you do?
We were on the deck, and that's it.
Did you call the police?
After about 10 minutes, I called the police just to get her to move. I was supposed to go to my mom to have dinner that night, and she blocked us, so we couldn't move. So I just called the police.
Okay. And she blocked you. How did she block you?
Her car was behind both her vehicles.
In your driveway?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you're saying about 10 minutes after your daughter in the car, she was still in your driveway blocking your vehicles?
Yes, sir.
And that's when you called the police?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did the police come out and speak to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. What happened?
They spoke to me first, and they spoke to Kathy, and they gave us a police report.
Okay. Did he issue an arrest warrant?
No, sir.
Did he take any photographs?
Did the officer take any photographs?
Your knowledge, did he take any photographs of Mrs. Coote?
I'm not quite sure. She was at the bottom of the driveway at that time, so I don't know what they did.
All right. And is there anything else that you wanted to add from that evening?
No, the only thing is my daughter came back up the driveway by herself.
At when?
About the police was getting ready to leave at that point when my daughter came back up and said she forgot something inside the house.
Okay. And did she go inside the house and retrieve something?
Yes, she did. I said, well, go ahead and get it. And when she came back, she was being real friendly with my wife. And she gave her a copy of my ex-wife business card and gave that to my wife and just basically asking my wife to call her. So she sent my daughter, Christina, with her business card to deliver to my current wife.
And what did you do with that business card?
We ripped it up. My wife gave it to me, and I'm like, oh, this is why Christina was being so friendly. Her mom sent her to give us, get in touch with her. So we just ripped the card up. We didn't even bother telling the officer. We just ripped it up in the driveway.
So to you as her father, it was clear to you that whatever Christina had done, she was put up to, her mother put her up to it.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Thank you. No further questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Kathy Coote, you can go ahead and ask questions at this point if you have questions for him.
I do. Good afternoon, Mr. Coote.
Good afternoon.
On September 24th, 2023, when I came to pick up Christina, who called me?
I'm not quite sure of your question. Who called you? I'm not quite sure.
Before I came to pick up Christina, who called me?
Meaning, who called you in terms of what?
You said earlier that your attorney asked who called because a conversation was had. So who called me prior to me picking up Christina?
I think I called you because Christina asked me to call you.
Okay. So you called me. I didn't call you, correct?
I'm not quite sure. I can't recall it. Christina asked me to call you from her phone, and you were already on the phone. Or you were on the phone with Christina, and she asked me to speak to you. Yes.
Okay. So when I arrived to pick up Christina, and you came down the stairs from the deck to bring her luggage, you asked me to do what?
I'm not quite sure what I asked you to do. I think after Christina was in the car, I asked you to leave the driveway.
When you came down the stairs with her luggage, how did the luggage get in the car?
I put the luggage in the car, I believe.
What type of car was Miss Coote driving that day?
You're saying Miss Coote and
Kathy Coote.
Okay.
What type of car was Kathy Coote driving that day?
I think it's a Mercedes, I believe. A two-door Mercedes.
Two-door Mercedes.
Yes.
So if it's a two-door Mercedes, how did the luggage get inside the car?
I think you opened the trunk or opened the passenger side. I'm not quite sure.
You don't remember where you put the luggage?
No, ma'am. I know I put the luggage in the car and then Christina in the passenger side of the vehicle.
So when you asked Miss Coote to pop the trunk of the car, what did Miss Coote tell you?
I'm not quite sure.
Did Miss Coote tell you that you couldn't put the luggage in the trunk because the trunk was full?
I can't recall that conversation.
At that point, did Miss Coote exit the car, open the car door so she could let the seat back in order to put the luggage in the back seat?
I can't recall, to be honest with you.
When Miss Coote exited the car and put the luggage in the back seat, what did you say to Miss Coote?
I can't recall what I said to you. I just asked you to leave the driveway.
Why would you ask Miss Coote to leave the driveway?
Because my daughter was already in the vehicle and I just wanted you to leave so I can go see my mom and have dinner.
You stated in the police report that you did not hit Miss Coop?
Never have.
Is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yes, ma'am. Never have.
Why would you state that you did not hit Miss Coop?
Because
If
I never had.
If you simply asked Miss Coop to leave after you put the luggage in the car, why would you tell the police that you didn't hit Miss Coop?
They asked me, did I hit you? And I told them, no, I did not. And they wrote a police report and they confirmed what I stated.
Why did you call the police, Mr. Coop?
I think I just didn't want it to be your words against my words. And I wanted to make sure everything was documented just to protect myself. And that was the main reason. I knew it may lead to something else, and I just wanted to be sure I had an officer on the scene and to make sure that she left my driveway and there was no further issues.
And why would you call the police if Miss Coop simply got out of her car, or according to you, she didn't get out of her car, she was just sitting in your driveway? Why would you call the police if you said you went up to the deck and you and your wife was looking up witches and warlocks?
Because you were still sitting in the driveway, and I wanted to go have dinner with my mom, and you were still blocking both vehicles. After 10 minutes, I said, let me just call the police because I don't want any issues, and I just wanted everything to be documented so I can protect myself and my family.
So, in other words, Mr. Coop, you're saying that your daughter and your ex-wife lied and said you put your hands on top of her head and tried to shove her in the car?
I think the police report speaks for itself.
Well, according to the police report, it states that my daughter corroborated my story where I said you put your hands on top of my head and try to force me into my car and then poke me with your index finger near my eye.
Okay, that's
so
false.
You're saying the police report you're saying that's false. So you're saying that your daughter lied?
Yes, ma'am. And the police report speaks for itself. I did nothing to you, and I never have.
In the beginning of the marriage, Omar, did Miss Coop call the police on you at least 4 times?
Yes, you did. And each time the police came out, nothing. There was no cause for arrest because I never put my hand on a woman before, and I never will.
During those times, did the police ask you to leave the property, Mr. Coop?
Yes, ma'am, they sure did. They just said, wait until you calm down and I can return. They said, just go ahead, leave. And maybe when you calm down, I can come back. And that's what I took their advice.
Mr. Coop, you said that Miss Coop drove down to the bottom of the driveway. At what point did she drive down to the bottom of the driveway?
After about 10 minutes, you went down to the bottom of the driveway and you sat there for a few minutes or until at least the police got there.
So you weren't able to move your car after Miss Coop went to the bottom of the driveway? Was she on your property? Was Miss Coop on your property?
Yes.
She was still on your property?
Yes.
The barbershop that's down at the bottom of the hill is still your property?
You are still on my property. There's a long driveway and there's an easement that goes up between the two properties. So technically, you are still on my property.
If Miss Coop's car was parked in the driveway of the barbershop, was she still on your property?
I guess technically, no.
Thank you. You indicated that Miss Coop said something about witches and warlocks. Why would she say something about witches and warlocks?
I have no idea.
Did she say that your stepfather was a pedophile? Is that what she was telling your ex-wife?
This is inappropriate. We're not going to defend against this.
Was this what was said at the time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll allow it if she's alleging that this is what was said prior to the physical altercation. You can repeat your question.
Mr. Coote, did Ms. Coote state to your wife that your stepfather was a pedophile?
I have no idea what you stated to her.
But you just said that I said something about witches and warlocks.
Yes, you did say that. Yes. And my daughter, Christina.
What is it, Mr. Coote? You said that you don't know what I said, but on one hand, you say I said witches and warlocks, but then you say you don't know what I said.
A part of what you said was witches and warlocks. My daughter, Christina, heard you and said to me, Dad, you're not a warlock. Dad, you're not a warlock. And so my daughter was telling me this after you stated it.
After Ms. Coote stated that your stepfather was a pedophile, Mr. Coote, what did you do?
I have no idea, nothing at all. That wouldn't be the first time you stated that. So I absolutely did nothing at all.
Mr. Coote, did you leave a letter from your stepfather confessing to being a pedophile?
Okay, so I don't know that that's going to be relevant. So again, anything that was said or done on September 24th, I'll hear about that. But again, it needs to be focused on what was said or done on September 24th.
Okay. On September 24th, Mr. Coote, did you, when you brought the suitcase down and Ms. Coote exited her car to let the seat back so that the luggage could go in the back seat, did you begin cursing Ms. Coote out, calling her bitch, and that you would slap the shit out of her?
I don't recall. I don't recall that. I asked you to leave the premises and go home, and I did not put my hands on you.
Mr. Coote, did you say to Kathy Coote that that she killed her father? Did you say that to her?
I can't recall what I stated that day. All I know is I asked you to leave my driveway because we were just wanted to move on, and that's it.
Did you tell Ms. Coote that you would slap the shit out of her multiple times, and your wife screaming at the top of her lungs, telling you, no, Omar, stop, Omar, don't do it?
No, ma'am. I think that's your imagination.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. Coote.
Okay. All right, counsel, do you have any redirects?
Thank you, Judge. Defense rests.
Okay. Right, so I do have one or two questions. My only question would be, sir, you don't recall why she was refusing to leave the driveway? She didn't say why she was refusing to leave?
No, Your Honor. I can't recall why she was refusing. I had no idea. It was just basically trying to start a fight, and I just tried to avoid it the best that I could.
Okay. Anyone? So do you have any follow-up, counsel, based on my one question?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Mrs. Coote, you said you wanted to recall your daughter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can go retrieve her and have her come back in. And
thank you. It'll be brief, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So you can just get in the screen as well. And
can you see me, Your Honor?
Yes, I can. What is your follow-up questions? You can go in and ask your follow-up questions.
Christina, on the day of September 24th, 2023, the day that this incident took place, did you hear Gary Coote say anything to Omar Coote?
Yes, ma'am. I heard Miss Carrie Coote say, no Omar, no Omar, no Omar, no Omar, stop. Well, not stop, but just no Omar.
So that's what you recall
Hearing. Yes, ma'am.
When Omar came down the stairs with the luggage, and what did he ask your mother to do? Do you recall?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Did your mother at any time when he came down the stairs with the luggage, did she get out of the car?
I can't remember that either.
You don't recall when your mother got out of the car?
Well, I recall my mama got out of the car when I came downstairs and toward her vehicle.
Okay. Do you recall what Mr. Coot was saying to your mother?
Yes, ma'am. He was in a fit of fury and rage, saying basically that he was gonna beat my mother's ASS and attempted to raise his hand and but it seemed as though he was about to slap my mom, but he didn't.
Did Mr. Coot at any time during the incident say that he was getting ready or he could not leave his home to go to his mother's house?
I can't remember that.
After your mother called the police, what did she do?
Me and her waited inside her car, and we waited for the police to come then.
Did she move her car?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did she move her car?
She moved her car down. Well, when the police came, she moved her car down the barber shop.
Was that before the police came?
That was before.
So your mother moved her car before the police got there?
Yes.
About how long after your mother called the police did she move her car? Do you remember?
No, ma'am.
Was it a long time or a short time?
It was a long period.
Before she moved her car?
I believe so. I would say I couldn't recall.
But after she called the police, she moved her car, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have for her, Your Honor.
Okay. Any cross from the defense or defense counsel?
Were you reading off that piece of paper when you were answering those questions?
No, sir.
What do you have in front of you?
I don't really know where it is.
Show it to him.
Okay.
Turn around.
Okay.
Just turn around.
Just this paper right here.
All right. Let me ask you, before today, did you practice what you were going to say today?
No, sir.
You didn't? You never spoke about it with your mom?
We spoke about it, but I just recall the events in my head, what happened, what took place.
Okay. So before tonight, you and your mom never discussed anything that happened?
Right.
She didn't prepare you for this hearing?
No, sir. She didn't prepare this. She didn't prepare me for this hearing.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
I only have one or two questions. Christina, when is the last time that you went over to your dad's house?
Just a day when the incident happened.
And have you? Go ahead.
As I was saying, that was the last day.
Have you spoken to him since that occurred?
I mean, he's tried calling me, and he's tried texting me also. There was an instance where I was allowed to speak to him. I can't remember when that was, but he was at my grandmother's house with him and Carrie and my little baby sister, and I had talked to him via WhatsApp. And that was really the last time, that was the last time when I was allowed then. And then
would you let me ask this, would you like to be able to see your father, or would you rather not have to go back over to the house?
I would love to see my father more than anything. I miss my baby sister so much.
Would you want to see your baby sister and your dad, or would you want to just see your baby sister if there was a way to see her without having to go over to the house?
I would love to see both.
Your Honor, I believe she said, I would love to see my father. That was pretty clear.
I said I would love to see both.
Right.
Okay. And let me ask one last question for you. Do you have any idea, has anyone told you anything about when you might be able to see either of them again?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And that makes you sad?
Yes, ma'am, deeply.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to let the attorney ask a few more questions if he has any, and then I'll let your mom ask a few more questions, and then I'll be done. Okay.
Yes.
Christina, just a couple questions. Who decides whether or not you're allowed to speak with your father?
Well, I believe for the judge right now, when this didn't happen, I was free to speak to him whenever.
I'm sorry, who told you couldn't speak to your father?
Well, for right now, my mom told me I wasn't allowed to speak to him, but back then when this never occurred, I was allowed to speak to him whenever.
Okay. But your mom says you're not allowed to speak with him, but then she lets you speak with him at a family event, right?
No, sir.
Oh, you text him briefly. I think it was WhatsApp. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That was back then when none of this started.
That's when your mom allowed you to speak to your father.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so now your mom won't allow you to speak to him. Is that right?
Well, I'm not allowed to. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Coote, do you have any questions for her?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can go ahead.
Christina, does your mother have a protective order against your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the reason why you're not allowed to speak with your father?
Yes, ma'am.
When one of the protective orders was dismissed, did your mother allow you to call your father and speak to him?
Yes, ma'am.
And after the order was put back in place, did your mother tell you that there's a protective order and you can't speak to him at that point?
Yes,
Your Honor, objection. This is all leading, and there's no evidence of an order, a TPO, a permanent PPO, none of that. I object to that entire line of questioning.
I have evidence.
What I would, let me do this.
I have evidence of a TPO.
Hold on one second. Well, let's not talk over me because that's going to be a very quick way for all parties to not be in a good place.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. What I would like to do is do a voir dire by myself with Christina. So Mom, if you don't mind going into another area in the house where you can't see or hear what's going on, I'm going to put her in an electronic room where it's just me and her and it's not being recorded, just so I can talk to her. So if you don't mind just going out somewhere where you can't hear what's going on. And Madam Clerk, can you place me and Christina in a private breakout room, please?
I can, Judge, one moment.
What I'm going to do, counsel, I'm going to wait and see if Ms. Coote when she gets back, I'm going to give some remarks. So you can go get your mom. Okay, so Ms. Coote, I see that you're back. Okay, so Ms. Coote, I have a couple of things.
Yes,
yes, ma'am. So again, you can tell me no. Obviously, it's within your purview to do that. But what I always do in cases like this, I started off with family law, right? Whenever my first legal job back whenever the 1990 somethings, right, was with a firm that did mostly family law. And so what I've always found with cases like this, where the witness is a child, there is a taxing on that child. So again, I don't go into guilt or innocence whenever I talk to them. I just try to get a view of whether or not I think that they're believable and they understand what's going on and what their feelings are. And so without, of course, revealing anything that, was said in confidence with her, you both did an amazing job because she's obviously brilliant and she's obviously kind, and she obviously cares deeply about both of you and loves both of you. And so again, I cannot require that you talk to one another to see if there's anything that can be done that would not require her to have to come back and testify multiple times in front of multiple different people, some of whom will not have the bedside banner, let's call it, that I would have with her. But if y'all are able to talk and see if there's anything that can be done, whether that's payment of medical bills, agreements to stay away and not communicate with one another, I would like for you guys, if you don't mind, to try one last time to talk with all parties involved, and maybe with just keeping her at the forefront. Again, everybody has a right to do whatever they want to do, and I'm not going to, it's not going to sway my decision-making one way or the other based on what the outcome is. But I just believe, and I know both of you obviously, because I've been reading your facial expressions and body language this entire time, especially whenever she's around. So again, from what she tells me and from what I can see visibly from both of you and from my 25 years of being immersed in this type of world, I know both of you love her dearly. And I know both of you care about her well-being above all. So what I would ask is that you try to talk to one another to see if there's anything that can or cannot be done. And Ms. Coote, if you don't mind, if you would be able to let the attorney know, because I don't know the status of the TPOs or permanent restraining orders, whatever it may be, if you can just let him know that, so we can know if there's even any type of workaround with those that would allow communication that does not involve you, or visitation maybe that does not involve you, so that you don't have to be put in harm's way anymore. And Ms. Coote, let me ask this. Would you prefer to talk to the attorney without Mr. Coote present, or are you fine with Mr. Coote being present?
I'm fine with Mr. Coote being present. It doesn't matter, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys will...
I just wanted to say my child's well-being and safety has been my concern always.
Now, I know both of you do that. And again, I let her know that, because again, I can tell from both of you that you do care about her. But again, I've done these types of cases for forever. And I know that in spite of us having incredible love, undying, go into the fire type love for our children, that situations can come into play, that there are two variables, right? Like you have to weigh your safety and you also have to weigh her best interest. And I understand that. So again, by no means am I suggesting what you ought to do and what you ought to agree to. I'm just saying, based on what I've been able to tell of her, again, I'm not the family judge in this case, but I don't think that she would be in danger from her father. I could be wrong, but I don't get that sense. And I also get the sense that she loves both of you, and she would be happier in a world where she gets to have access to the two of you. So if there's any way that can happen, that doesn't put your safety at risk, because again, your safety is paramount and important too, I would just like for you guys to talk to see if there's anything that can be done. And again, like I said, what we typically will do is there can be agreements where someone agrees to stay away, or someone agrees not to call, someone agrees not to have any communication whatsoever, someone agrees to go to a police station every time that they want to pick up a child, or even not even being able to pick the child up themselves, having to send a family member or a representative to come get the child for them, so that there's never any type of communication, getting the child a cell phone so that there's no contact with a main number, allowing there to be specific hours, like between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 p.m., that a cell phone that only belongs to the child can be contacted. Again, there are a million.
She has her own cell phone, Your Honor.
Perfect. And so there are workarounds, as long as there isn't a protective order that a different judge signed that says that they can't be. Otherwise, I can't alter some other judge's order. They would be the only one that could alter their order. That's why I said I would like for you to talk about whatever order's in place with the attorney. But if there's any type of resolution that possibly might involve her not having to testify again, and also you getting the protection that you need, again, I can't tell you what to do, and I'm not necessarily telling you that you should or shouldn't do it. I'm just saying I would like for you guys to talk at least one more time with all of that information in mind or whatnot.
Okay. And yes, Your Honor, there's a lot more to this case than
I know that.
There's
no way. And this is the thing too, Ms. Coote.
And she loves her dad, and I've never done anything to discourage that.
And Ms. Coote, the only thing is that I always tell people, again, a court, it doesn't matter how many hours you're in court. It doesn't matter how many weeks you're in court before a family judge, right? Mm-hmm. They never will be able to get the full story, right? That's never going to happen. Also, just as true is that a child doesn't get to choose their parents, right? My experience has been, even with children that I've dealt with that were crack addicted. Their mothers were on crack whenever they had them. Their mothers prostituted them. Their mothers put them on the corner. Those children always still wanted to have some type of contact with their birth moms, right? Like maybe one out of every 50 might say, no, I don't want to have contact. But the others, no matter how depraved I thought the parent was, for some reason, that child still had a longing for that other parent, right?
Absolutely.
So again, when I tell you, I'm not saying, I think I started off and I wanted to start off that saying that I know that you put her interest first. I know that you're a good mother. I know that he tries to be a good father, right? I know this. But I also know that it's a heavy burden on any child to be in the position where they feel like they're going to be the causal factor in something occurring or not occurring. And so if there is anything that protects your safety and protects her safety and gets you whatever justice you feel like you need, whatever security you think that you need, if there's any scenario in which that can occur, just let me know. And I just want to make sure that y'all have time to talk about that while I take care of some of the other matters, just based on what I was able to discuss. If y'all would just amuse me that way, just to talk one last time to see if
absolutely. I can agree to that, Your Honor.
Okay, so I appreciate you immensely. Thank you so much. And again, like Ms. Coot, I know that you're a great mom. And again, a child doesn't turn out that great without having great parents. So again, she didn't come out of a vacuum. So she couldn't be that gifted, that talented, that funny, that kind, that intuitive without having good parent, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm going to put you guys back in a breakout room. Just press accept or join for all three of you to go into that breakout room. And then I will get back with you guys once you're done. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, so I'm back on y'all's case. I don't know that I went over witnesses with you guys. So counsel, since I have you talking right now, I'll just go ahead and ask, how many witnesses that you have other than just your client?
I have my client, and I'm not sure that I'm going to call my client, Your Honor, because of the nature of the case. But
perfect. So probably no other witnesses.
I don't have any, Your Honor.
Perfect. Okay. So let me ask this, Mrs. Rainey, how many witnesses do you have besides yourself?
She's muted.
Okay, Ms. Rainey, if you're going to mute yourself.
One.
Just one. Okay.
One.
Are they physically with you, or are they on online?
They're online. They're not physically with me.
What is their name? Okay, you can go ahead and begin with your testimony and what I will need to hear about specifically, because we are going to be just focused on the incident. So I don't need to hear about anything that happened other than what happened on the incident date in question. And so the incident date that I have, give me 1 second to pull that back up. I'm going to read the exact warrants to you. Let's see. Okay, so what I'm pulling up is the warrant. It looks like it's alleged that on July 28th of 2023 at 4 p.m. That the crime of simple assault was committed. It's alleged that Mrs. Smallwood did commit an act making verbal threats, which placed Ms. Rainey in fear that she was going to kill her. Okay, and so that's all that I want to hear about is any verbal threats to kill Mrs. Rainey that occurred on July 28th around 4 p.m. So you can go ahead and begin with your testimony.
On Friday, July 28th, there was I was going to attend an orientation session with Kevin. Kevin informed Ms. Condry that I would be attending, and Ms. Condry was very upset that I would be attending. So I actually did not attend because she threatened to call the police. So I didn't want to cause any drama for Latrell, so I didn't go. Mr. Dean actually, once he left orientation, he came back to my house, and he was sitting here in the kitchen, and I was cooking, and Ms. Condry called him on the phone. So he answered the phone on speaker. That conversation went straight into me not being around Latrell and her distaste and dislike for me. And the threat that she made then and there was, I got 17 for this head. I don't want to curse. Of course, Mr. Dean was like, me and him both looked at each other and was like, wow, she just threatened me again, because she had threatened prior to, that was the second threat she had made. The next day, we got that was the same day. I'm sorry. Later on that day, I got a text. My phone was ringing, and Mr. Dean let me know my phone was ringing. So I went upstairs, and it was Ms. Condry calling me. And then she had sent a text saying, hey, give me a call. We got to fix this before this gets too bad. Something, I'm paraphrasing, something around to there. I said, okay,
call you from Kevin's phone. So she called Kevin's phone. The conversation started off and it just went completely left. And she again made another threat. I can't quote her verbatim because I don't want to come off as lying because I said it wrong. But she also made another threat at that moment. At that time, that's when I was like, this is serious, because the previous threat that she made was on November 6th, 2022, where she told Mr. Dean that if I was around her son.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is not part of what we're here to today. And what we've heard, from the little bit I've been able to read in the court's record, that the threat was supposedly made on July the 28th. And now we're hearing all the way back to November the previous year, and we're also hearing the next day. So
it's relevant.
If the attorney has to be put on notice of any type of incidents that occurred on other dates. So unless the only way you will be able to talk about those incidents is if we had a hearing for those incidents, and you would have to give the attorney notice of that. So are you asking to pursue charges for anything that happened the day after this alleged incident and back in November, or would you like to just go forward with what happened on the date in question?
We can go forward.
Okay, so then that means I won't be able to hear about anything that happened on any other dates that the attorney would not have notice of.
Okay, from November, no problem.
Okay, so you can continue to tell me about what happened on the actual day.
Okay, so in the meantime, shortly after, that was July 28th, 29th, Miss Condry, I got notification from someone that Miss Condry had went and posted on Facebook, made a Facebook post, and this Facebook post says something about her stalker. Well, I immediately found out that she had went to Cherokee County and filed a stalking warrant against me that was denied. However, so the Facebook post is very shocking, I'll just say.
Objection relevancy.
So did she post anything on Facebook about the threat that she made to you on the date in question?
It was the post was made on around August 16th. It was actually posted to Facebook.
Did it reference any threats that she had previously made to you?
Yes, it referenced the threat about me stalking her, about stalking. She did not mention my name, but
that's a threat. That's not a threat, but did she mention what you alleged that she said on the 26th? I believe that was the date.
Yes.
She referenced that in the Facebook post?
She did. She said, "You're better off drinking bleach than to mess with me and my kid." And this is all about the kid.
On the other date.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Okay, so I'm not going to hear about that because it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with what happened on the previous date. She did not admit that she made a statement or say that y'all had gotten into a fight on the July date, I'm assuming.
On July 28th is the day she stated, "I got 17 for your head, 17 bullets for your head." And now you're at the gun range.
Bullets, or did she say, "I have 17 for your head"?
Can I say exactly what she said? Because I hate to curse.
Say exactly what she said.
She said, "I got 17 bullets for that bitch's head." That's what she said.
Okay, so that's what she said on the date in question.
Exactly.
Okay, and she said that directly to you or to your Mr. What is Kevin's relationship to you?
My fiance.
Your fiance. Okay. Did she say that to him or did she say that to you?
She said she was on the phone with him and I was there listening. It was on speaker. We were in the same room.
Okay. So she was talking to him on his cell phone and he had put it on speakerphone and she was talking to him still, but said she had 17 bullets for your head.
Right. And that conversation was about me meeting the son. She does not want me to meet him. And if I come in contact with him, she got 17 for my head. That's what she said.
And did you say anything to let her know that you were listening at that time?
No, I just stood there in shock.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you want to tell me about what she said on that date?
No.
Okay.
The next day, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Did she, so the only thing that we have a notice of, you can file for another warrant for a different date if you feel as if there's probable cause for warrants for other threats that were made. But this only one that I'm concerned with today is the one that the attorney would have been put notice on for. So it's just what happened on that date. So did she say anything else in the day where she said, I got 17 for your head?
In that later that day, there was another conversation when she reached out to say, hey, let's, do something. Let's talk before this gets worse. In that conversation that didn't go well at all as well, she said something to the effect of, you really want me up, bitch. I can't get it verbatim. That's what she said.
Okay.
So the next day is when she went to Cherokee County to file a stalking warrant. And then she posted on Facebook about a stalker. And I have that ready for you to view.
I haven't seen it.
So again, I'm trying to understand what the relevance of the stalking, her Facebook post about stalking has to do with what happened on the previous date.
She claims that I'm stalking her son because she doesn't want me to meet him. This is an issue between Kevin and her. So she's stopped Kevin from seeing his son, which she has every legal right to do. Excuse me, she has every legal right to do. However, morally, she's wrong. So she doesn't want me to meet Kevin. Doesn't want me to meet the son. So she's saying I'm sorry.
1 second. It doesn't have anything to do with what was said on the 17th or on the, I'm sorry, I keep giving the wrong date, but it has nothing to do with the threat that she made to put bullets in your head or any she didn't.
It's all relative. It's all coming from her demand.
No, I know where it's coming from, but what I'm saying to you is she did not make any mention of the threats that she made to you or any admissions about those threats in that Facebook post, did she?
I think she did. It's very relevant. I think if you...
I didn't ask if you think it's relevant. I asked if she made any admissions about the threat or if she made any mention of the threat on that post.
Indirectly.
How did she indirectly reference the threat?
So you're stalking the wrong person. That's what the picture it says. At the bottom in the message, it states, you're better off drinking bleach than to come for me and my son. She had just filed a stalking warrant against me the day before. So
that doesn't have anything to do with what happened on that date. So if you want to pursue charges for that threat, if you believe that was a threat directed towards you, you would have to file another application and you would have to list that threat and that date because the attorney would not be on notice, nor would she.
Okay, I understand. That information was found later after the police report was made. Okay. So but she made the threat on the 17 bullets to my head. So she definitely said that.
17.
So anything else that you need to present about the actual threat that was made about putting 17 in your head, or she was the wrong one to mess with? Okay.
That's it. She just put bullets in my head. That's it. Going forward. Yeah. Okay.
So counsel, I'm listening. I'm just going to be, give me 1 second, actually. Just 1 second. You can begin.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm just gathering myself.
Oh, sure.
Okay. When you were testifying and the judge was asking you questions, the telephone call that was placed in which you heard the alleged threat, that wasn't made to you, correct? Isn't that what your testimony was? Yeah.
You're talking to me, correct?
I'm talking to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. The phone call was not made directly to me, no.
Okay. And so you were basically listening in as a third party on a two-party conversation, true?
Correct.
Okay. So any alleged threat was not directed at you?
I disagree. The conversation.
But you weren't part of the conversation.
I was the conversation.
You were the conversation, but she didn't know you were on the telephone, correct?
I don't think she knew where he was located. I don't think she was aware that he was here.
Okay. So basically, she didn't know that you were there, so she didn't threaten you, right?
She did.
Did she threaten you directly?
The topic of the conversation was to Neal.
Okay. But if she didn't know that you were on the conversation, how would have she threatened you directly?
The topic of the conversation was to Neal.
Judge,
I don't know how to answer that.
Non-responsive.
You're almost asking for legal conclusions, maybe a little bit, but you can ask some questions. But again, I think you probably just need to ask what happened, not necessarily how she classifies it. Well,
all I was just trying to establish that she wasn't known to.
I understand.
Yes,
I think if you're using the term threat, that would technically, that's something I'm going to determine if whether or not it was a threat or not. Right. But you can ask her about what was said or how she felt about it or why she feared it. You can ask those types of questions, but not necessarily if she believes it constituted a threat, which would be a legal conclusion.
Right. I just, yes, ma'am. I'll be glad to move on. All right. When you heard the alleged threat, well, first of all, let me back up. At this point in time, you had never met Ms. Condry Smallwood, correct?
That is correct.
And you had only seen her in pictures, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had she ever come to your house?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. When did you immediately file a police report at this time?
I did. After the second conversation that day, I did.
After the second one. So when did that second conversation occur?
The same day.
Okay. And then you went to file a police report?
Yes. Once I got my grandchildren situated in either house, because I didn't want the police at my house with them here, I called the police. I sure did.
And the police came out to your house?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that you could go ahead and take a warrant, correct?
No, they did not. They took the report. I received a letter from the DeKalb County Police stating that I had probable cause to issue an arrest warrant.
Okay. All right. So they said you had probable cause. Okay. And then you, at that point in time, did you go seek to get an arrest warrant at that point in time?
No, I did not. I called Mr. Dean and I said, can you reach out to her to see if we can get some boundaries, some resolve, something, because this is getting out of hand and I'm not trying to go there. I understand the emotion. I'm a mom too. And I understand. However, we need to try to work something out as adults because this is crazy. She responded to him and said, no, take it to court. I want to go to court. I waited. I waited.
All right.
And provided another opportunity, gave it some time to kind of die down, the emotion to kind of die down. And I asked him to reach out to her once again. I said, hey, reach out to Taisha and see if we could all meet out. I'm going to pay for us to go to Top Golf. We in a public place, in an adult public place, and let's sit down and talk because I don't want to go there. She said, no, if I come, I'm coming with the police. I said, okay, I want to go to court.
What did you want out of the conversation that would have?
I wanted to first to understand the reason why she doesn't want what her reason is for me not meeting him, and I'm in a relationship with Kevin. I wanted us to understand the son. His name is Latrell.
Okay, and that's Latrell, who she has physical and legal custody over, correct?
That is the son that her and Kevin Dean has raised for the last 13 years in their marriage. Yes.
Okay.
And so she has legal custody.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. All right.
And so my reasoning for that was we are adults, we are mothers, we are parents. And at the end of the day, this is centered around Latrell, and every child should be loved and centered and put at the forefront of everything. And we have to get past our emotions to do that. So I'm stepping over to say, let's get some understanding. Let's set some boundaries because I want to respect I want to respect your space in respect of my relationship. But using the son to force Kevin's hand to make him do what you want him to do when he's not complying is not okay. So let's come to something. Let's get some space and some arrangements going so that everybody can love on him and share with him and everybody get along. Or agree to not get along in peace.
Okay.
That was my intention. That has always been my intention.
So and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm understanding that if she would have met you at Top Golf and y'all would have had this conversation and she would have agreed to let you meet her son, then you wouldn't have brought the warrant today. Isn't that true?
No, this is not about meeting the son. She's made it about meeting the son. This is about controlling Kevin, and her and Kevin gonna have to figure that out.
Okay.
If you do not comply with Taisha and her demands, then she's going to use whatever she can against you. She has used Kevin this entire time. So that's why Kevin can't see his son that he's raised for the last 13 years anymore, because of me. And I'm not the problem.
Okay. But it is true that if y'all could have worked it out that afternoon or the evening, we wouldn't be here today, right?
I truly believe so. We would not, because we would have been adults about it. Both parties would have been adults, but she was very adamant. Take me to court. I want to go to court.
Okay. And so here we are. We're at court.
We're at court because she pushed the issue. And this is how I felt. I felt even more concerned because if someone says, I don't want to work out with you.
We are talking about is not anything related to what happened, the incident date. So I really want to get back to what did or did not happen on July 28, 2023. Okay. So counsel, you can ask another question if you'd like to, or re-ask the same question, but just if we can focus back on that date.
All right. Okay. On that date, okay, how much time transpired between the first conversation and the second conversation?
About an hour.
About an hour. Okay. And at no time did Miss Condry Smallwood come to your house, correct?
I have no idea what happened. Their live stream just suddenly muted. So I went through and I read all the terrible captions, and I will give you a quick summary. The other case came back. They did come to a resolution. Apparently, she's been trying to serve the TPO on Dad for quite some time, and he's been avoiding service. The lawyer agreed to accept service for the TPO and abide by it, and also agreed to compensate her for her medical bills from that night. So essentially, he's not denying that he pushed her with his finger. Mom is not content with that agreement. She says she's incurred close to $15,000 in medical bills, but he's only willing to give her $800. I think this whole situation is a big giant mess, and apparently Dad still isn't allowed to have any contact with the child because of the pending TPO. But I guess that's going to have to be a hearing on another day. The judge questioned Mom about her medical bills and whether or not her insurance covered it, and apparently they would only cover 50% of it, and the judge told her that that's something that her insurance company is going to have to take up if they want to go after him to reimburse or to pay the difference. I didn't entirely understand because, in all honesty, I don't fully understand how all the medical insurance stuff works. And I apologize for the terrible background noise. I was not prepared for a voiceover while I was editing this. The judge told her essentially, he's paying your out of pocket. If you want to be made whole, you're going to have to go to civil court. This isn't the place for it. And a little more lecturing about doing what's right for their daughter, which I really liked that because it was really sad listening to that child talk about what happened, and I found her pretty believable, although somewhat scripted. I guess the judge, when she talked to her in private, must have got a different impression, because without Mom over her shoulder, she was very likely speaking in the same manner, so that might just be how that kid talks. The judge did not issue a warrant. She closed the case with the caveat that Dad would pay the $718 whatever out-of-pocket expenses for her medical bills that night, and that he agreed to accept service for the TPO. he has to show up at the sheriff's office at an agreed time that mom is going to arrange with the attorney, and that will be that. No warrant, but she's allowed to refile the same warrant if dad doesn't abide by the agreement that they came to tonight. Judge Neal asked to make sure that when they have their TPO hearing, that she let the judge who handles that know that she had spoken to Christina and that she was willing to speak to the TPO judge. She also asked that she make sure Christina is available to speak to that judge because she believes she wants contact with her father, and that should all be considered if they do grant a TPO, but the judge needs to know all of those facts before including her on it as a protected party. Back to this other ridiculous case. Apparently, the defendant has filed a anti-stalking TPO type petition, and right now the applicant is prevented from having any sort of contact with the defendant or the defendant's child. So it sounds like there's a whole lot of petty going on here. After a half an hour of painstakingly reading these terrible captions, I understand a little bit more. And I'm so used to doing voice to text, side note, that I keep having to re-record what I'm saying because I keep adding punctuation, comma. So apparently, applicant's boyfriend is in some sort of custody battle with the defendant. It seems like she just might be trying to stick her nose into a custody matter that is none of her business. And there is a permanent protective order that has been issued between her boyfriend and the ex, the defendant. So I'm getting a retaliatory feeling from all of this, and it's kind of ridiculous. I haven't reached the point yet where the judge makes a decision, but I don't think there's going to be a warrant today. I don't think this woman has any business around this man's child if, for whatever reason, his mom doesn't want that. Maybe it's petty, maybe it's not. Maybe it's valid, maybe it's just a whole lot of bitter jealousy. I really don't know. Judge Neal doesn't let a lot of drama fly, so obviously we don't get a whole lot of background. At the end of the day, no threats were directly made to this woman. She doesn't know her. She was never in her presence. She doesn't know if she has a gun, has access to a gun, and she needs to stop asking her boyfriend to go to his ex to try and make peace, I guess. There's a no contact order. There's a protective order. They need to go their separate ways. If dad wants to go to court and fight with his ex for access to his child, then that's between them. And really, none of this should have been happening. I think that busybodies sometimes really throw a wrench into people's lives. I don't know how old this child is. Nobody says it at any point. Hopefully, they're working it out. The kid's okay, and everybody's going about their merry lives. I'm a little disappointed because this docket went into the wee hours of the night, and I actually went to bed before it was over and left it recording. So on a quick, fast forward rewatch, there were some pretty fiery looking cases, but unfortunately I just can't. I cannot read through 3 hours of captions for you. Love you all dearly, and I appreciate you for sticking with this one despite having to listen to me babble on. But I love this docket, and I know that it's not one of the most popular on this channel, and I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I enjoy it. I think it's great. It's always such a mess, and I just get a kick out of watching people navigate the system as civilians, and some of them do really well. Some of them do really poorly. So, I don't know. And nights like tonight, where we get a case with that girl put in the middle of a really awful situation, and it's eye-opening. So I hope you've enjoyed this, despite having to listen to me stumble over my words, but I will leave it here, and I have no idea what happens with the case you can see on screen right now, unfortunately, and we're going to leave it at that. The next warrant docket is hot, I will tell you that. I caught a little bit of it during recording because I do try to avoid paying too much attention. I don't like to know the decisions and the resolutions before I edit. As most of you know, I like to react organically. So what you see happening on the screen coming from me is literally happening in the moment as I'm watching things for the first time. Just wanted to clarify that because I think some people might think that I already know what's going on and I base my commentary on that. But if you watch enough of my videos, you'll see that that can't be the case because sometimes I'm really, really wrong and I don't go back and delete my initial thoughts. I just acknowledge that, oh, wow, I had this wrong. And I'm okay with that. And I hope you're okay with that. And I hope you all have a fabulous day. And that will be it for me today.